Hi Leo, welcome to your January 2022 reading. So we're going to start with the cards. We'll talk a little bit about astrology too. This time of year, you guys are really super focused on your day-to-day life. And because Venus is going to be retrograde in your house of health and day-to-day life, there's this desire to change things. Maybe you're recognizing some bad habits that you may have, but it's so funny because the Cancer reading that I just did, and I use different decks for different readings, so I used a different deck for Cancer, but their first card that came out was also Justice, and we talked about how Venus doesn't just represent love and beauty, she also represents justice. So there's this and I see the Justice card as karmic retribution. There also may be a Libra in your life, and maybe you have Cancer also in your chart somewhere, so it might benefit you to watch the Cancer reading as well. But I feel like in some way there's something about, like, for some of you, you're becoming single. And it was through like a divorce, or it was just through something really, really harsh. Like it was not a comfortable thing for you to do, or for you to that to happen to you. But I think that as you move through January, you're going to recognize how much the past, how much that relationship, or how much that situation, or whatever it was, how much it was against you. It was restricting you and blocking you from actually moving forward and doing things that you need to do in order to thrive and to succeed. Mercury is also going to be retrograde in January. He'll retrograde on the 14th and go direct on February 3rd. So past lovers can come into your life. Mercury's going to be starting retrograde in Aquarius, so you may see, or you might start to recognize the lessons of past relationships. It may not actually be that a physical person shows up, but maybe some, you know how we go through those cycle of lessons, and healing is not a linear thing. So a lot of times those wounds will come back up, and we have to sort of like go through that lesson again, because that wound was so incredibly deep. So we have the Justice card on the top row. We also have the 9 of Pentacles on the top row, and then the 10 of Swords. For some of you, this has been a long time coming, or like this, because for me, justice is about the karmic retribution. So it's like what goes around comes around, or, you know, as above, so below. And with this particular thing, this particular relationship, there's some kind of karmic retribution that shows back up for you, or that shows up for you. You may have moments in January where you are going to the worst possible case scenario, and you are thinking the worst that could happen, right? With that 10 of Swords. And that can create the blockage as well. And I feel what I would like for you to do is to start looking at this as the ending of a cycle instead of the beginning of suffering. Because you're past the hardest parts, but I'm not sure that you're seeing that yet, which is totally understandable. Sometimes it's very hard to get out of the pain of all of it, but you really have to, in order to move forward, getting out of that pain process and letting yourself feel it and letting yourself like move through you, that's going to be the best part. Don't shut down. Numbing yourself and shutting down during a 10 of Swords moment, or a 10 of Swords ending of something, is the opposite of what you want to do, because that's going to create the dis-ease within, and that can create stress and more trauma and anxiety down the road. On the bottom row, we have the Ace of Wands. We have the Page of Swords. And we have the King of Wands. So there you are. Welcome to your reading. I love the gifts that come out of that ending. I know that that sounds weird. Like, how can something beautiful come out of such a tragic or such a painful loss, such a horrible ending to a cycle? How can something beautiful come out of that? You've made room. A lot of times when we go through those hardest aspects of our life or the most painful aspects of our life, it removes people, it removes situations, it removes the things that are no longer resonating in our energy so that we can open up space. And with Jupiter now being in Pisces and that being part of the expansion that you are experiencing, Jupiter wants to make space for things. And Jupiter's going to be there all through 2022 with a little dip into Aries for a little bit. And Jupiter loves being in Pisces because it's the co-ruler, right? So instead of looking at this ending as something that is so incredibly painful that you're not going to be able to drag yourself out of it, I want you to recognize more that this is cleaning up for you. The conversations that you have with yourself are going to be a thing, especially with Mercury retrograding and also with that full moon in Cancer that's going to be happening in your 12th house. We're going to talk about that a little bit further in the extended. But this opportunity also feels like you having to show up for yourself, because when we get the Ace of Wands, when we get this, it's a gift. It's a universal gift. And the wands represent the passion, the action, the moving forward, the making space, the really big thing, right? This is Jupiter and Pisces in your 5th house presence. Hold on a second. Pisces is not in your... eighth house presence. I was like, it's not right. It's not the 5th house. 8th house. It's a good thing I write things down. Okay, but even still, expanding the relationships with people, expanding, deepening the relationships with people, but you have to make room for that. And some of you had to make so much room that you became single first, or you just did this whole thing on your own for a while. That may be the thing that's happening. That may be that thing where you feel like, oh, this is the hard part. This is going to be crushing. This is the crushing part. But the Page of Swords is about being honest. It's about being honest with ourselves, and it's about being honest with other people. If you're dealing with a Libra or an air sign, they're not showing up as an adult. They're showing up as somebody who isn't, they likely are telling themselves lies so that they can believe themselves, believe that lie. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like whoever helped create the energy of the 10 of Swords for you doesn't feel like they were looking out for your best interest. And that's a huge red flag. That's that big thing where, I mean, like, you can be in a relationship where you both have sovereignty from each other and still care about the other person's well-being. It's entirely possible to be independent and in a relationship at the same time. But the world told us that we needed to be codependent in relationships and really depend on each other. And that's why toxic relationships exist, because you become codependent on the other person. And so this 10 of Swords was showing you how to release that codependency so that you can open up more space in your life. And I'm actually really excited for 2022 for you guys. I think that there's going to be a lot of changes happening. So this is going to be a pretty big thing for you. In the extended, we will get further into the astrology and talk about the North Node that's going into Taurus. That'll be in your 10th house, which is really great. We're going to talk about how that's going to help you at work in your career. And we will talk about the Mercury Retrograde a little further, that full moon in Cancer, and we will clarify these cards down on the table. If you'd like to get the extended, you can check the description box, become a member, or head over to Vimeo and get it there. I love you guys. Have a wonderful January. I'll see you in the extended. Bye.